Hello again in a new video in our course Certified in Risk and Information System Control, CRISC. In the last videos, we talked about the governance, and we agreed that the organizational governance is about having an organizational strategy and getting all departments and units working together in harmony to serve the organizational strategy and achieving organizational goals and objectives. So you have to get all departments working in the same direction. The same goes for the risk department, where you must employ the right policies and procedures that will help you as risk practitioner to help the organization in achieving its goals. You cannot be, as a risk practitioner, be a showstopper. No, you should be a business enabler. You are helping the organization achieve its goals. You are not a showstopper. Today we're going to talk about something more practical, starting from this video, going through the next videos. We're going to talk about risk identification. Then in the next videos, we're going to talk about risk analysis and how to respond to these risks and putting the right controls. So our outline will be covering what is risk event, what is threat modeling. We're going to talk about vulnerability and control deficiency analysis and risk scenario development. So as a start, what is a risk event? As we agreed before, a risk event is something that may happen or may not happen. And if it happens, it will have a negative impact on your business. So it could be something like losing a key personnel. If you lose something, some key person whose absence will impact your business process. If you have new regulation that you have to comply with, new regulations mean that you're going to spend the money and effort to just be compliant. It will not bring you any profit. It's just being compliant. But mostly those regulations are important to help you stay in the business and be secure. So I see regulation, new regulations as an opportunity, not as a burden that we have to work on. But again, if you don't comply with this regulation, you may be out of business or you may pay a fine. It could be fire in data center. Imagine if you have fire in data center and some of your assets are burned. This is of course a disaster. Ransomware attack, hurricane or flood, any abuse of authority. So all these risk events, this is just a sample of some of the risk events that you may face. We have to understand those main basic concepts. You have to invest enough time understanding each one of these 5 concepts. Starting with an asset. What is an asset? Most people think that an asset is something tangible. It has to be something tangible. No, it doesn't have to. It could be something intangible. It could be a patent. It could be source code. It could be your brand. You spend a lot of money in building your brand like Nike. So the brand itself is an asset. It could be a recipe like Kentucky Fried Chicken. It could be a process like the process of McDonald's. So assets could be something tangible or intangible. It's something that you use to, when it works, it will help you achieve the organizational goals. It will get you money. It will get you customers. It will get you market share. So any vulnerability, nothing is perfect. So any asset has a vulnerability or more. So for example, if you have a server or a network working or an application working, you could have lots of vulnerabilities. You could have unsecure port open. You could have weak access control. You could have weak authentication methodology. So you have to study all these vulnerabilities. You have to scan each asset and find out any vulnerability that exists and try to remediate it. The remediation could be expensive. For example, if your application is using unsecure port and you want to close this port, you have to go back and change your application to use a secure port. And if this application is talking to other applications, you may have to change the other applications as well. So fixing a vulnerability could be something expensive. It could take some time, but it's very important, because if you work with unsecure port, you could be easily attacked. This brings us to the third concept: the threat, the actor, the attacker, the thief. somebody or some entity trying to attack you or attack your asset. How can they attack? How can they make harm? They utilize your vulnerability. So that's why you're trying to close all the vulnerabilities as much as you can, making the process of attack very difficult. You will never make it impossible. You are always you have potential attacks. You could be attacked, but you make it very difficult for the attacker. You try to close all the weaknesses and all the holes through which the attacker can penetrate, whether physical or logical attack. So the threat could be an attacker trying to steal data. It could be a thief trying to steal some precious assets. It could be a virus trying to destroy your data. It could be lots of things. So if you have this pair vulnerability and the attacker using this vulnerability, you would have a risk. And as we said before, any risk has likelihood and impact, probability and impact. The higher the probability, the more attention you have to give to the risk. The higher the impact, the more attention you have to pay for the risk. So you measure the size of the risk and you prioritize all your risks based on those two factors, the likelihood and the impact. If a risk has low likelihood and low impact, you don't have to spend a lot of money to mitigate it. Just watch it. Keep an eye on it. In case the likelihood increases or the impact increases by time. But as long as it's very low, you don't need to consider it something that is not something very important. But if it has a high likelihood and high impact, for example, earthquakes in Japan. Earthquakes are likely in Japan, and they have catastrophic impact. So all building builders in Japan, all engineers or architects, they have to consider the impact of earthquakes. They have to build anti-earthquake buildings. It's expensive. It will cost a lot of money, but it's very important because the likelihood is very high and the impact is very high. Okay, I would advise you to spend enough time understanding these 5 basic concepts, because without them, the rest of the course will be very difficult. Talking about risk factors, as we said before, we have types of risk factors, 2 types, internal and external. It's not only external. It's not only the external attacker trying to attack and put your website down or steal your data. It could be lots of other things. So, for example, it could be market changes. The market is changing. Your competitor is trying their best to beat you. So you have lots of competition. You have changes in the market. Prices are changing. Spot rates are changing. You have geopolitical changes that will impact you as business. You could have regulatory changes. You could have technology evolution. We have seen all the example of Nokia, which was #1 in mobile market. And now Nokia is just one of the very small players because they did not cope with the technology evolution of smartphones. The risk could be internal. It could be something related to your personnel, their capability, the capability of your IT, the importance and the attention that the organization or the senior management is giving to IT or to cybersecurity or to risk. It could be your ability to change as an organization. It could be your operational model. You could have a weak operational model or a strong operational model, or an effective operational model that was working very well, but with the changes in the market, it became ineffective. So you have to change. It could be your strategic priorities. It could be your culture. Do you have the culture of, yes, we can do, we can succeed, we can win? Or the culture of reluctancy and it will go fine, we don't care. Let it go, let it go. You can see these variances inside any organization. Also, we need to consider the capability of IT. So since IT is putting your systems, the systems that you are using to serve the business, you have to oversee the capability of your IT in aligning and planning their processes and their operation to be aligned with the organizational goals. You have to study and improve their capability to build and acquire systems. All systems you have could be built in-house, or they could be acquired and implemented. So in some organization, IT does both of them, depending on the system. So the capability of your IT to build and acquire systems and implement them and putting them into operation and providing support, because it's not just buying a software and putting it and that's it. You have to support it. And this support is not an easy task. It's an ongoing task that will last forever. It could be 24/7. It could be, this is actually one of the main factors contributing to your reputation as an organization. If your system is always down, this will harm you. So if you have the IT that is supporting the system to make sure that it is available 24/7, this is one of the factors helping improve your brand. The capability of IT to monitor and evaluate all the systems. You need also to consider the capability of risk management, because if you have weak risk management practices, you could have lots of risks that you don't know about, or you are not responding to risks in the right way. So you must have solid risk management capability. So how can you identify risks? This is a very comprehensive exercise. So there are lots of methods that you can use. You don't have to use all of them. Just select the ones that are more suitable to your business and your organization. You could be using historical data, for example, going back to old incident reports and audit reports. You could refer to public media and find out about risks that happen with similar organization in the same business. You could be checking annual reports, or you could do some systematic scanning, some systematic checks. For example, you can do vulnerability assessment. You can scan all your assets and find out which vulnerabilities exist and try to remediate them. You could study and analyze your business continuity and disaster recovery capability and try to find out the weaknesses of your process. You need to have this critic eye, finding out which parts of this process could fail or could be the cause of a failure. You can have interviews and workshops with experts. You can get experts from all related disciplines inside and outside the organization and learn from them, and do interviews with them to get to know from their experience what risks we could have. It could be inductive by taking the team, studying the whole process, not only the disaster recovery process, the whole operational process. We start studying the process as a flow chart and checking each step and finding out what could go wrong with each of these steps. You could use a risk library. It could be something that you build with your own experience and your own history in the organization, or it could be something ready-made that you can buy. Usually you can find that with GRC systems. So sometimes you can purchase a GRC system that comes to you having a ready-made risk library. If you have something like that, just make sure you don't consider that the risk library covers everything in the world. Because as we said, we live in a dynamic environment. So you could have new risks every day. And every business is different from the other. And every company working in the same business could have different risks from its competitor in the same business. So if you depend on risk library, you also have to do your homework. So I would advise, try to mix some of these methods together. Don't depend on one of these methods. Just using one of them is not enough. So how do you go through this process? First, you identify your assets. You have to have a list of all your assets, because at the end, you want to protect these assets. If you miss one of them, you will not consider the risks impacting these assets. So these assets will not be protected. So as a start, you have to have a complete list of assets. Then you study all the threats that could harm you, internal and external, and identify what existing control you already have. You already have some controls in place. So after you study all the existing controls, you will have a vision. What are you missing? What are your gaps? What are the weaknesses points that you have now? Because your controls would not be covering everything 100%. So you have to identify the gap, identify the consequences before you start the risk analysis process. Because once you do that, you're going to start to do a risk estimation or risk sizing, because based on this size, you will put the right control. We'll talk about that in details, but I just need to remind everybody with this important hint, because it's a very golden rule. You always put the control, they have to be cost efficient. You cannot put a control that will cost you more money or more effort than you're going to suffer if the risk happens. You have to be risk efficient. Sometimes you have to live with risk, because this is the best option for you. So what threat categories, when you are doing your threat analysis, you have to understand the categories of threats. It could be something physical, as we said, fire, flood. It could be a natural event. It could be earthquake. It could be hurricane. Your threat category could be loss of service. You are losing some of your services. Your online banking is down. So your customers are not able to use it. So everybody is rushing to use the branch or using the ATM machines, which is putting overhead over these other services. It could be compromise or disclosure. Sometimes the attacker is trying to steal your data and disclose it to harm you. Maybe harm your reputation, or disclose some confidential data that if they are disclosed, they will not be able to continue your business. It could be anything. It could be technical failure. I'm trying to put your system down or trying to make it function incorrectly, or a virus. It could be a virus infecting your server, so the server is not functioning well. It could be unauthorized action. So it could be lots of threat categories. So talking about internal threats, what can we do about it? It's coming from inside. This is very difficult to handle, because your staff are having access to data. They are the ones running your business. So it starts with day -1 when you are hiring. You are trying to do some vetting, some screening. You want to see that you are hiring some decent people with morale, but also you want to hire competent people. If you have incompetent people, they can do their job incorrectly. They can do harm more than if they have bad intentions. So you are trying to hire the right people based on their competency and based on their morals and their history. You do some vetting. You get them to sign non-disclosure agreement. The non-disclosure agreement means that after they leave, they cannot disclose any of your secrets. So if they do, you can go to court and penalize them. You need to have a solid offboarding process when the person is leaving, because leaving persons could be trying to do some harmful actions, stealing some data, stealing customer data, stealing processes, removing important data, especially if you have disgruntled employee, if someone is fired. Some of the security books advise that if you want to fire someone, you have to revoke their access in the same minute they are told they are fired. Because once they know, they can do any harmful action. You have to give them awareness. You have to teach them. But on the other hand, you have to do some penalties. If they do something wrong, they will be penalized. You do job rotation. You can't leave someone in the same place for 10 years, because this person will build his own black box. Nobody knows about this area. So if this person leaves or in sick leave or retires, you will be in a mess. And even if this person is doing something fraudulent, nobody may know. But if you rotate people, somebody will come in this place If the new person finds that there were some fraudulent activities, he will report it, because if he does not report it, he will be penalized, and for no gain. He's just protecting someone else and getting penalized, so he will disclose it. You have mandatory vacations. In most organizations, you are forced to take a week or a two of vacation. It has to be long enough so that you have to appoint someone as a delegate. So if this delegate finds out that you are doing something fraudulent, he will report it. Okay, external threats, it could be physical security threats, as we said. If you have weak security perimeter, or if you have weak physical controls, it could be legal threats. If one of your customers, for example, gets harmed because of any of your business process issues, he can go to court and make a claim, and the result may be paying a fine, or maybe even losing your license to work. It could be socio-economic threats. It could be software threats. If your software is not functioning well, if it has holes, if it was not tested well, so it has some incorrect business logic. So it could be several types of threats. You have to study each one of them and put the right control to protect yourself from these threats. So the sources of information about threats. How can you, as a risk practitioner, know everything about all types of risks? We have seen that there are many types. You cannot be an expert in everything. So what can you do? You do interviews with experts. You get experts in every area, you talk to them, and you have to get some understanding. You don't have to be an expert in each area. You cannot be an expert in legal affairs, and expert in regulatory affairs, and expert in operation, and experts in digital channels, and expert in IT. But you have to understand from them to the level that will help you do a risk analysis. You can refer to media reports. You can do observation. You can go ahead and sit with people working and see the discussions they do. You can go to committees and meetings and listen and learn from them. You can check the logs, the audit trails, and study what is missing in these audit trails and what could help you. You can do self-assessment, or you can get a third-party assurance. You can hire an organization to come and help you do some sort of analysis. You can get feedback from users. You can refer to your vendors. If you are buying software from vendors or hardware from vendors, you can check the reports and learn from these reports what threats you may have. So this is a very comprehensive process that you have to do very well. Sometimes in some organizations, they hire an external vendor to do the whole threat analysis process. So to do a threat analysis, you have to identify all threat scenarios. In each scenario, you have to identify at least these 4 pieces of information. You have to know the actor of the threat and its type. Is it internal, external, regulator, vendor? You have to know the threat type itself. Is it malicious? Is it accidental? Is it error? You have to check what event this threat can cause. Will this threat cause disclosure of data, interruption of service? Will it modify data? Will it steal some assets? Will it destroy some assets? Will it cause ineffectiveness? So you have to check what event can this threat cause and which asset will be impacted. Is it people? Is it process? Is it facility? Is it infrastructure? This is the minimum that you should have to identify any threat scenario. You can add more information about the threat scenario based on your business. But these 4 are the minimum to identify a threat scenario. So watch out for these 4 pieces of threat scenario for the exam. There are lots of threat modeling models that you can use. Nothing of them can be said to be better than the other. You just get to choose which model is more suitable for you. You can check the CRISC review manual. It will give you a brief description about each one of these models and its pros and cons. You have to study well these pros and cons, because based on this analysis, you will get to choose for your organization which model is more suitable for you. Last but not least, we're going to talk about vulnerability analysis, but I like always to mix this slide by talking about penetration testing to get people a sense of the difference between vulnerability scan and the penetration testing. We talked about vulnerability scan and we said it's a systematic process, scanning the asset, trying to find all weaknesses, all vulnerabilities, and remediating this vulnerability. So you are trying to help your asset to be in the best shape. You are trying to make it self-protective. But when you are doing vulnerability analysis, you are excluding the element of threat factor. The penetration tester is an ethical hacker, someone trying to simulate what the attacker does. He tries to attack your system. He tries to find out what vulnerabilities you have and try to penetrate through those vulnerabilities. If there are no vulnerabilities, he starts drawing scenarios on how to attack. Because again, you could have all vulnerabilities mitigated, but this doesn't mean that you are secure 100%. Attackers have their own methodology and their innovative methods to penetrate your system. So you are including the element of the attacker. So the penetration testing is doing vulnerability scan and simulation for the attack. So of course, before you hire an external penetration tester, you have to do the vulnerability scan first, because it's meaningless to get this penetration tester to do the vulnerability scan for you. Just do your vulnerability scan, mitigate everything, then you hire a penetration tester to help you find out how the actual attacker can attack you. If this video is useful, please don't forget to follow the channel, click the ring so that you can get notification when we put the next video. Thank you, and I wish you the best of luck.